Katu. So this is going to be brief in a second. Well, not for a second, but brief. I got some things to do. It's been a day today. But real brief. So as you see the title, hadiths that have caused a lot of these scholars confusion. That's what happens when you follow, made up tales and halfway or put together histories, and then you put your iman into them, your faith in them. But briefly, I just wanted to point out really how we're supposed to go on a basic level, basically the Quran. Excuse me, I just got through eating some things. So the Quran never, see, people, they don't understand that this is a belief thing. You believe in Allah. It's not about necessarily your belief in the history, right? It's about just basically the belief that Allah tells you to do. This is the problem with a lot of Muslims nowadays. They hard-headed. Even in the past, hard-headed. They want to have a whole history and write their own history, and make compilations because they don't think the book of Allah is sufficient enough. But the book itself don't tell you to do that, see? The book tells you to reflect on the message and believe it. You compare whatever is in this book, you compare it with other things and you believe. Or you reflect on the message, and it basically, if it makes sense to you, believe. If you don't, you don't. And I find it strange that people felt the need that they have to have a history, the compilation of the Quran written outside of Quran, right? When they weren't ordered to do that. You see? Allah tells them that Allah said, and everyone knows the famous statement that Allah will preserve the book. Allah will preserve the remembrance. Okay? So this is the same creator we're talking about that preserves the heavens and earth. This is the same creator who makes sure your heart continues to beat. This is the same creator that makes rain comes, constantly and consistently. And yet people, when they're told to believe that Allah will preserve it, they felt that they should have write a history about it. And so therefore they messed up on a lot of historical things. They, took some things, added it, took away, how these goes, right? So because they put their faith in hadith, this now enters into their concept of what the Quran is saying, and also its history. When Allah never ordered them to write a history. You see, iman means belief. It's something you're secure in. You're supposed to believe it. Allah orders you certain things to believe. You to reflect on the message and then believe. Okay? You can take that message and compare it to other beliefs, and which one makes the most sense. And you believe. See? So Allah has promised that He preserved the Quran. Right? But these people wanted to go and write their own histories, and they added that to their iman, their faith, and therefore now are into confusion. Right? So I'm going to show a little video clip, and then I'm going to show you some things, what the Quran really orders us to do. It never told us to write our own made-up histories. Okay? That's not the order from Allah. See, Muslims are hard-headed, and that's why a lot of people are in doubt nowadays. That's why they're getting tangled up nowadays. That's why you got non-Muslims attacking certain Muslims nowadays about compilation of the Quran. Last week, I don't know why all of a sudden they want to start talking about the compilation of the Quran and hadith. Okay, maybe Quran alone movement is growing more and more again. It's coming back, right? So they felt the need to try to, I don't know. But they're placing their faith in this, and so they're losing their faith and stuff like that, or they're having doubts or whatever. But the Quran itself never tells us to do that. It tells us to compare, to reflect on the verses and believe, right? You can take the message of the Quran and compare it to other things. So what do these people say? They'll say, and I'm referring to other Muslims, they'll say, well, how we know we got the same Quran? See, they're approaching it from a non-Muslim perspective, because those were questions that the early non-Muslims of theology and stuff like that, as Islam spread, they started asking Muslims, well, how do we know this is the same thing? How do we know? The Muslims were ordered simply to recite the ayats to them, and reflect on the message. And somebody said, well, that's simple-minded. Well, listen to this. The one who keeps the universe going has guaranteed it will be protected. The one who makes it rain constantly, every year, every year, every year. The one who makes the sun continue every year. You're supposed to put the one that makes your heart beat all the time. You're supposed to put your faith in what he has said, because we are told what in Surah 2, ayat 177. Belief in Allah, belief in the angels, belief in the books, belief in the messengers, right? The day of judgment, etc., 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 right? So it's a belief thing. Not write your own history up and then get it messed up or whatever, right? If a person gonna believe, it's a belief thing. It's not I'm gonna write this history and this and that. And you see, on top of that, they messing up. You see? Now, how do you approach the Quran is, for example, you go to Surah 112, say He is Allah the One, the concept of Allah, the concept of the Creator. You compare that concept with all the concepts in the world. Once you reflected on that, you'll see a pattern that majority of the beliefs in the world, they believe their Creator has a son, they believe their Creator has a daughter, they believe their Creator has grandfathers, they believe their Creator has grandmothers, they believe their Creator has whatever a human being, like birth and offspring, or the Creator itself being born. Okay, then you have the message from Allah, and it says, hold on, matter of fact, I'll put it on and I'll get to this video. It says what? Okay, this is the concept that you're supposed to be comparing when you talk to people about the message and other things. Say, now this is telling you to say, He is Allah the One, or the Creator the One. We know this, but it's more deeper than you think. Allah the Eternal Absolute. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there any equivalent. Okay, now over here, walam yulad, right? Hold on, wrong one. Now we're going, okay, there we go. Right? Lam yulid, right? Walam yulad, right? Okay, wallet, on certain levels, it means a son, right? But, hold on, it's also translated as children, offspring. So you take that one concept, you go across the world. You go in and bring the message to the world. Now people are like, well, how do I know? No, focus on the message. What is the message? The message is, this Creator has no offspring. He's not from anything. It's not from anything, and it didn't have anything born from it. You compare that belief to everything else in the world. Concept and Godhead. So your God has children, or does your God not have children? Which one makes more sense? Right? The thing about it is this. I thought this phone was charged. The thing about it is this. When a person says, okay, well, how do I know it's preserved? It's a guarantee by the Creator. Well, that's simple. That's just a belief. Exactly. Right? Exactly. It's just a belief. But you know what? When you compare with logic between all the beliefs, which belief makes more sense? That's the base where your man comes from. You see, your man is not based upon some history written. Your man is based upon through logic and reflection and believing that your Creator, if you believe this, put it like this, if you logically believe that your Creator don't have children, then you believe in that message right there. Now once you believe in that message, you also believe the message is preserved. You see what I'm saying? It's like a circle that protects you in a way. Okay, I reflected. I'm not a believer. Okay, I'm reflecting on all these different beliefs about God. All the beliefs in the world say that God has children, or God was begat by somebody. Then over here we have this message that says God has no children and God it was not born by nobody. And then you logically sit back and say, okay, well, I know the Creator who made the skies and the heavens and the earth is not like a human being. So this one makes more sense. That is what your iman is supposed to be based on. Not some human beings who wrote down some history, and then these people differ with these people and these people differ with different. That's not what Iman, that's not why it's called Iman, belief. See, now if we're talking about you want to go into, academics as history and stuff like that, that's something else. But that is not what your Iman was supposed to be based on. And that is exactly what the Muslims nowadays, they base their Iman on historical narrations written by people. And Allah never ordered Muslims to do that. See, we keep thinking we smarter than Allah instead of believing, okay, Allah promised us that He's going to preserve it. And then we go out and give the message to the world and say, okay, well, let's start at the concept of Godhead. Which one makes more sense? You see, anybody in their right mind knows that the Creator who made all this, that's unseen, has no children. They'll eventually come to that conclusion. So then they can believe and say, okay, this is the one that makes the most sense. Or some people could just say, you know what, I'm not going to believe nothing. You see what I'm saying? It's about Iman, belief. It's not about all that other stuff. So what I'm going to do, let me see. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you a few little things real quick, some verses about that, and then we'll get to this video real quick. And then I'm going to show you that although in a tafsir, when I use a follow hadith, we had this one verse that we usually try to say, well, this means that people believe in one part of the book and not the other part of the book. But then when I finally cleared all that out and I reread the ayats, it came out to me that even in the time of the Prophet there was a conspiracy, right? And nowadays we see people trying to use shreds, or supposedly of Quran, to try to say it's the earlier Quran, right? And they got all these scientific, supposedly scientific things going on. Yet Allah tells us inside the Quran, if you believe most of those on earth, they will surely misguide you astray from the way of Allah. Now who do I believe? Remember, this is about being a believer. You see, am I going to believe men who say, okay, well, these shreds of the Quran are the earliest Quran? Or am I going to believe Allah, who shows me inside the Quran where He says the deen was complete? We have a full Quran here, complete book. And they're trying to show us shreds saying, well, they're saying different things. But let me show you this ayat, what the deen is about real quick, and how we supposed to believe this. So, trying to make this brief. Okay, so here you got some ayats. Did they not reflect upon the Quran? Hold on. If it had been from any other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. And when there comes to the information, okay, that's something else. This is a blessed book which we have revealed to you, O Muhammad, that you may reflect upon its verses, and that those of understanding will be reminded. Okay? Again, and how many a generation before them did we destroy, who are greater than them in striking power and had explored throughout the lands? Is there any place of escape? Indeed, in that is a reminder for whoever has heart and who listens while he is present in mind. Okay? So it's about reflecting on the verses. It's not about, well, how do I know this or how do I know that? It's about reflecting on the message, and whatever message you got, whenever you got it, at whatever time you get it, you just read the message. Does it make sense or it don't make sense? If it don't make sense, or you don't believe that the message is true, as far as comparing the Quran's belief about Allah or the Creator versus other people's belief about Allah, if the Quran's version don't hold up and you don't believe that, then leave it alone. If it does hold up, then you believe. You see? You don't try to write out histories and let me put it back right. You don't try to write out histories and then try to make up preservation stories. Okay? And a lot of people gonna say, oh man, that guy's talking ignorant, he don't know that. I'm not worried about none of that. I'm not worried about none of that at all, because as they're so smart, a lot of people losing their iman. As they're so smart, a lot of them are losing their deen because they refuse to go by what Allah tells them to do. He don't tell you to compile and make up your own histories. Allah's the one who got that. Allah's the one that preserves it. You see, whatever generation we in, We supposed to just compare it to whatever beliefs is there and believe. Okay? So that's what we ordered to do. We're not ordered to do nothing else. You see? And so that's the way you have to go as a believer. That's what it's about. Now, if you want to be a scientist, then deal with science. Okay? Go get into science. But this right here is about Iman. Right? And there are some scientific facts inside the Quran too. Right? So, that's what's going on. Now, as far as people, hold on. Let me see something real quick. Okay, I'm going to show you that the Quran was sheets in the time of the Prophet. Okay? Alright, here we go. And we're going to see people trying to conspire. Nay. Let's say, indeed it is a reminder, so whoever wills may remember it. Sheets. Sahufin. You see that? That word sahuf right there is actually like literally pages in the book. Sheets. Honored. Exalted. Purified. Now watch what it says. Watch what it says. I'll go get the other ayat for continue on it. All right. I think that's I'm thinking about it's the other one. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that was it. So it's sheets purified, honored by scribes, right? And then this talks about a person purifying themselves. So you already know what you're going to be reading to purify yourself. Upon you, that not he purifies himself. Okay. Upon you is not the responsibility that purifies himself. But as for he who came to you, okay, here we go, striving while he fears, but you from him are distracted. Nay, indeed, okay, here read. It is a reminder, so whosoever wills, let him remember it. See that? Whomsoever wills, may remember it. Sheets honored, exalted, purified. Okay? So we had these in a sahuf form, okay? In a time, at this time of the revelation, right? That's what I meant. I meant to push 9, not 8. Not upon you, but as for he. Okay. So that's not the. That was that part. Then where's the other one that I had? Right here. There it goes. Okay. Hold on. Came to you striving while he fears, but you from him are distracted. Indeed, it is a reminder, so whosoever wills may remember it. She's honored, exalted, and purified. Okay, hold on for a second. Technical difficulty. Hold up. Because it's supposed to say scribes, okay? That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at number. It's supposed to go to number 10. Oh, I'm supposed to push go. SubhanAllah. Okay, let me see if it goes now. SubhanAllah. Don't do that to me. I'm trying to show them. There we go. Purified, okay? Here it goes. In the hands of scribes. Okay? Noble, dutiful, right? And dutiful, okay? And then it goes on to talk about how people are destroyed who go about doing what they do, right? Is destroyed a man, how destroyed is man, how ungrateful is he? All right? And then it goes on to say, from what was he created? From what thing was he created? So over here, you notice this word right here, in the hands, ayat, in the hands of scribes, okay? Noble and dutiful. So Allah's telling you that the Quran, the pages, is in the hands of scribes. Okay? In the hands of scribes. That's what the Quran itself says. Go back. Purified, exalted. Let's see. I'm going to read that all the way through. Alright, right here. About the reminder. Nay, it indeed is a reminder, so whosoever wills may remember it. In sheets, honored, exalted, purified, in the hands of scribes, noble and dutiful. And then it goes on to talk about man, how he's destroyed. The man is destroyed. How ungrateful is he? From what thing was we created from. Okay, a drop of semen. All right. So we just saw in the Quran where the Quran itself, they're scribes, okay, and they have the sheets, and it's preserved, and it's in purified pages, right? We also know another ayah where it says the deen was made complete. Today have I completed my favor upon you, and bestowed upon you Islam is your deen. So we have the full complete book. Right here is telling you in that surah I just showed you that there's actually scribes, okay, and it's purified pages, right? Not at this time separated or whatever pages, but there was. Now some people try to interpret that verse right there that some tried to say it to me. Oh, well, maybe those are angels. Or angels. Some people think they're angels. I don't care about what you think. I don't care if you think that's angel. Did you see the word angel there? I saw the word scribes. Okay, I saw the word, the hands and the suhuf and the pages. Okay, so I take it for what the Quran is saying, not some people's outside interpretation they get from somewhere else. That's how people go wrong. You don't believe what Allah say. What happened to Adam when Adam told him certain things straight directly, and then what did Adam decide to do? He listened to somebody else. He didn't go what Allah told him. He went by what somebody else told him. See? And that's the problem with people. So we're going to look at one more thing, then we'll get to the video. So we have, so far I've covered reflecting on the verses of Allah. Allah's preserved the book. The remembrance is called. And we see that there are scribes. And we see that there are purified pages. Right? And what we're told to do is just reflect on it. You see, that's what we ordered to do. Surah 2 ayah 177 says what? Belief in Allah. Belief in the angels. Belief in the messengers. Belief in the books. See, that's what Allah orders to do. To reflect on it. It doesn't matter what age you're in. So people coming to you talking about, well, how do I know it's preserved? Or how do I know? That's what disbelievers used to ask. Don't worry about that. Focus on the message you got, because you want to know why you don't worry about that? Iman, belief. You believe in Allah. How you know Allah exists? See what I'm saying? You believe in angels. How you know angels exist? It's a belief thing. How do I know I got the same book? It's a belief thing. Allah says He preserves it. Now, if I truly do believe that there's a creator and He does communicate, then I believe that He's preserved it. Now I'm just focused on the message itself, comparing it to other messages about the oneness of God. And you can see that this message is the best out of all of them through intellect. Okay, when you compare them. So, here's where people try to divide the Quran. Alright? So I'm going to show you this. And so, this is important because this points out that, first, I don't know if did I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh? I probably did, and most people wasn't here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you and your families. Because this was supposed to be me just hopping on and then hopping off and going to do what I got to do, you know. Alhamdulillah. But this just popped in my head. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and put this on brief. I might do a fuller one and later on in the week or something like that with more details. But in the time of the Prophet, look at what people were trying to do. And then I want you to think about that. Anytime you see these shows out here to try to tell you, oh, look at this little piece of the Quran. Look at this little piece. Oh, this must be the oldest Quran. Right? Allah tells you inside the Quran, were you to follow the common run of those on earth, surely they will lead you astray. See? They'll lead you astray. Right? So, here's what they try to do. There it is. Look at that. Okay? We'll start right here. I am a warner, clear, as we sent down on those who divided. So people start dividing. Right now, watch this. Those who have made the Quran into parts. Some translations say shreds. So by your Lord, surely we will question them all about what they used to do. Hold on. I know I'm jittery. Hold on. Okay? Again, let's look at that. So people divided as we sent down on those who divided. Right? And then it goes on. Those who have made the Quran into parts. Into what? The Quran into parts, or shreds, some translators say. Then Allah gives them a promise. He says, so by your Lord, surely we'll question them about what they used to do. So all these people out here talking about, look at this shred of the Quran. Look at this shred. Or we had these different shreds of the Quran. And we put them together after the Prophet died. But Allah right there in this book is telling you how they're lying. Basically, it's a lie. He says, yeah, some people made it into shreds. Right? But then Allah continues in the same verse. But what is he talking from? He's talking from another verse. So that clearly shows you they cannot stop it. Why? How do we know? Because the verse is talking about what happened before it. It says, those who, right, made the Quran in shreds. Then it continues on with the very verse talking about it. Saying, we will surely, question them about what they used to do. So Allah's letting you know, right there is letting you know that some people out there trying to make shreds. Okay. But then Allah's revealing ayats about the whole incident. And then later on, after all these verses, we see later on in the history of the Quran, we see what it says. Today have I perfected my flavor upon you and bestowed upon you Islam as your religion. What's my point? My point is they might have little shreds out there somewhere, but you also have something different right here. You have a complete book. You have a complete book. The book continued talking about what these people did before who was making shreds. You see what I'm saying? If it had been messed up or whatever, I'm not saying people are saying that, but I'm saying had it been messed up or anything like that, the verse wouldn't have continued on. They would have just divided the Quran into shreds and that'd been it. The verse would stop there. You see what I'm saying? No other verse would have came afterwards. But clearly the book continued on. It said, yeah, they made little shreds here and there. Right? But then the verse talks about it. So there's a continuous in speech from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about what they did. So it didn't even stop the flow of revelation. So my point is you have the full complete book. You see what I'm saying? It went on and on and on and got completed. And them people who were haters, them people who tried to stop something, couldn't stop it. And then Allah told them, okay, yes, I know you made some little shreds. But it didn't do nothing. You see? So these people who are trying to teach us out there, they're doing the reverse. Oh, by the way, people try to say that this is talking about in the tafsir, when I used to read about this verse, I used to say something about, oh, this just means some people believed in one part of the Quran and they didn't believe in the other part of the Quran. So they try to cover it up with that story. Some people believed in this surah but didn't believe in that surah. That's not taking the Quran and dividing it into shreds, though. That's not taking the Quran and dividing it. Right? Those are people who in themselves, right, try to take it apart or whatever, into parts. You know what I'm saying? Like it says, right? But whatever people want to try to interpret it as, that's not exactly what it's saying. Okay? And it is clearly pointing out to some people inside the ayat that divided themselves. They divided themselves, and then after dividing themselves, they started taking the Quran, make it into different parts or whatever, right? And why this is important is because I'm gonna play this video, and we're gonna hear about how they're having this problem, right? Compilation of Quran, and mind you, there's different stories. I mean, you go to the Shia version, the Shias will tell you the Quran was already compiled, right? You got some Sunni hadiths that actually says the Quran was already compiled before the Prophet died. It was all put together. We know about the common thing that the Prophet chose where to put what ayahs. There's even hadiths in the traditions that say that too, right? So I mean, they got different stories. Then you say, well, then you have the other story, which a lot like to take, and they try to say, well, no, it was on, some was on bones, some was on leaves, some was on this, some was on that, and then so it was all there, but after the prophet died, it wasn't all together, and then they had to put it together, and then you had the Uthmani script, and that's what the people call it nowadays. Okay, complete BS. Okay, complete BS. Allah preserved it. Right? It was already in pages. We just read it right there. It was already suhuf. Purified pages. So how they try to get over that is one will interpret and say, well, that was angels. The angels in heavens had a scribe, or they were scribes. And another one tried to say, well, the Quran being divided into parts, that was just people believing in one part and not believing the other one. But see, all them stories they get from secondary sources. They don't read the Quran for what the Quran is saying itself. And that's my whole point. See, that's not what the Quran is saying. The Quran its own self is telling us that some people tried to, or they did, divide little parts. They themselves divided, and then they divided into little parts. And then the ayat continues on telling them about what they did. So we know that the revelation continued. You see what I'm saying? And then the deen became complete with a full, complete book. And that's why you see us with a full, complete book. And then you see some people out here nowadays talking about these little shreds or little parts of the Quran, supposedly. And they trying to say, well, these are the earliest revelations or something like that. Right? Trying to confuse people or trying to make people doubt. Right? So, don't fall for the trick. If you're a mu'min, if you are a mu'mina, if you're a believing man and a believing woman, don't fall for the trick. Right there inside the book, it tells you exactly what it is. See? And if you believe in Allah, and you believe in the oneness of Allah, and you believe that there is no authorities along with Allah, and if you believe Allah who preserves the heavens and earth and everything in between and inside your very hearts, the one who said, wherever there's three, I'm the fourth. Okay? The one who said, I am closer to you than your jugular vein. Then believe in his words, what he says inside his book. You see, forget their history, what they trying to talk about. So this is the problem. I'm going to show you the problem. And it's a small clip about what happens when you take these false stories about supposed compilation of the Quran. All right, and you're so concerned about, well, what if a non-Muslim says the history of the compilation of the Quran? What if a non-Muslim said, well, what? Okay, so what? Here's the message I'm bringing you. That's what Rasulullah, when he had the Quran revealed to him, was about the Rasul, the Rasulullah, the message. Okay, I'm not worried about, the reason why I'm not worried about if it's the original message or not, because guess what? The Creator who created everything, who knows the past, present, and future, he knew we would be here today. And so whatever is left of the book, whatever is here today, whatever the book is, that's his decree. That's what he decided he wanted to be. I'm still ordered to believe in the book. See? That's how you think when you believe in Allah. Allah saw this future. He still said what he said. So, even if a person try to throw doubt, whatever is here, that's what Allah wanted for us. And that is what I'm commanded in order to believe in. And that is what I will be giving my test based upon. So, alright, let's look at this video. And we'll see what the doubt's going on with them. And this is the shorter version. But this is serious. Look, listen to how flabbergasted this man is, who's supposedly alim. You know, he's a known scholar. Okay. So listen what he says about the Quran.
Every single student of knowledge knows, who studies ulum al-Quran, that the most difficult topics are ahruf al-qira'at, and the concept of ahruf and the reality of ahruf and the relationship of the Uthmani Mus'haf with the ahruf, and the preservation of the ahruf. Is it 1, is it 3, is it 7, and the relationship of the qira'at to the ahruf.
So he's saying, for those who understand, so he's saying that the difficulty, he said every student of knowledge knows the difficult, and now mind you, these are coming from hadith books. Understand that. But so when you believe in that, like you're supposed to believe the Quran, and that's how they believe it. So they're having a difficulty. He's going to talk about crisis in his faith. And last week, these videos were up last week like tough, strong. You know, I mean, they had people were shooken and back to back. Oh no, he shouldn't have said this or he shouldn't have said that. Or they, this, I mean, subhanAllah. All of the message of the Quran is meant for public. Right? But, so what he's talking about is kirat. And kirat is basically the modes of citation. Right? And he's saying comparison to the haruf, or the harf, which is the letters, okay, and how to match them up. All right, so he's having a difficulty because some stories that the hadith told him was that there was some type of ambiguity and stuff like that, and it's a hard history to understand. So normal people shouldn't be exposed to this, right? This history, but it's good enough they just believe. Well, if it's good enough just to believe, then just leave all that alone, period. If it's causing you all that doubt, the Quran tells you, you're not supposed to indulge in the doubt, right? So people are not listening. They're not listening to what Allah is saying. Okay? And this is the consequence, though. So I'm going to play the whole thing. It's 3 minutes. And inshallah, you guys can hear it. But just watch his face and how he's reacting and everything about the subject. Bismillah.
Every single student of knowledge knows, who studies ulum al-Quran, that the most difficult topics are ahruf al-qira'at, and the concept of ahruf and the reality of ahruf, and the relationship of the Uthmanic Mus'haf with the ahruf, and the preservation of the ahruf. Is it 1, is it 3, is it 7, and the relationship of the qira'at to the ahruf. This is a topic that when you're the beginning student of knowledge, you're like, what is all of this going on here? When you go a little bit more, you learn to simply memorize what your teachers say and regurgitate it out. And you don't fully comprehend. When you do a deep dive is when things get very, very awkward and difficult. And this isn't new. This is from the time of the Sahaba. This is not a joke, brothers and sisters.
So, oh no, I'll let it go.
The issue of ahruf and qira'at caused confusion to somebody whom the Prophet ﷺ said, if you want to listen to the Quran directly, listen to Ubay. Ubay is not some even average Sahabi. He is the Qari of the Quran. He is the master. He is who he is. And he goes, فَدَخَلْ فِي نَفْسِي شَكْ. What is all of this? Again, this is you asked me, it's a very honest question. It's the first time I'm saying these things. Many people are aware who listen to my lectures that I've mentioned the crises that happened to me at Yale.
All right. I know I said I'll let it play it through, but just realize I had some real important things. So, real quick. So basically what he's saying is the student of knowledge, they started reading this stuff and they get, like, whoa, what is going on? They get confused. So he says basically they get taught certain things and then they just memorize it and they don't even really know what it's about. Then he said when you dive deeper into it, that it becomes, an issue that even to the time of the Sahaba, meaning the first ones, even the Sahaba, the ones who heard and talked to the Prophet, were confused about it. Right? It was such a hard thing to them. So then he pointed one companion out of all those companions. He said, this is the one that you go to. Now, if you went to a Shia, their version would be, it's Ali you go to. Okay? So understand there's different histories on this, right? But okay, continue.
This was the issue. That the issue of ahruf and preservation and qira'at and relationships between them, these are very, very difficult issues. And the most advanced of our scholars, they're not quite fully certain how to solve all of the unanswered questions in there. Here's the point. These issues should only be discussed amongst people who know what the qira'at are and who understand some of these questions that are being
So,
raised.
is what you're saying the shak that came, or not the shak, but the crisis that you had was in relation to this question of the relationship between ahruf and qira'at, basically?
No. The crisis I had wasn't. The crisis I had was, that was what generated. What was the crisis? The crisis was very simple. Traditional understandings of ahruf and qira'at cannot answer some of these pressing questions that are now being poked by our people outside of, by our academics, not out, by their academics outside of the faith tradition. You see, in a Muslim environment, there's always some respect that we have for the Quran. We should. In a Muslim environment, we'll press a little bit, and then we'll say, okay, khalas, sami'na wa ata'na. And that's great, alhamdulillah. When you go to academia, they don't have that red line. And they're going to just, the famous story of the emperor with no clothes. They're going to just point out, no, that doesn't make any sense. Well, that's not true, and this and that. And they'll bring issues, which I'm not going to mention explicitly, that you know are true because they're in your own books. They're not inventing anything new. They'll bring you riwayat, and they'll bring you athar, and then you add to that very well-known issues of, I don't even want to be explicit.
Okay, so you heard the word riwayat. Riwayat is the narrations, it's a hadith. Okay, well, it's a category of hadith. So basically what he's saying is, even the most profound scholars, usually people press this issue about the preservation of the Quran, hadith, and then most people, even when they're dealing with scholars, they will say, they'll only ask a little bit and then they'll back up. He says, but when you go to the non-Muslim universities, they're poking at these hadiths. They're poking at them. You see what I'm saying? They're poking at it. Now, had not started following these hadiths, they wouldn't have this issue to be poked at. You see what I'm saying? But this is what's going on. Okay. So they're tested in their iman. That even the scholars have a problem with it.
Then you bring on top of that makhlutat, and then. And it's very clear to you and to every single very advanced student and specialist that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say. The standard narrative does not answer some very pressing questions. These are now.
So, the standard version that they give you in the hadiths about how their understanding the Quran was preserved has holes in it, is what he's saying. You go to the Shia one, they don't have the same, and I'm not vouching for either or, but you know what I'm saying? I'm saying you go to Shia one, they say, well, the Quran was complete. Okay, it was done, it was over with, it was preserved. You go to the Sunni one, they got different ones. Some views have, it was preserved, and then another copy was made, and then, some was, on bones and leaves, or, and in the Uthmani texts, so they have these different stories now. And so because these people took these historical writings, that there's no ayat in the Quran where Allah revealed to his messenger to tell the believers to write down hadiths for us to believe in, other books other than the book of Allah to believe in, because they rely their faith, iman, on these books about a supposed history, then they are faced with some type of problems in iman, in faith, to the point where even the most highest of scholars amongst them has some issues with it. Okay, so that's not to say that they do eventually come out to an agreement that what's preserved is preserved, and is complete and stuff like that. They do come out eventually to something like that, but they still are trying to figure out a way to as academia. But it's always a confusion for them, though, right? When you open up the can of worms, it's always a confusion for them because there's differences, okay, in the story. So, all right, so I'm gonna let the rest of this play out. So,
has holes. That's what I'm going to say. The standard narrative does not answer some very pressing questions. That the standard narrative has holes. That's what I'm going to say. The standard narrative does not answer some very pressing questions. These are now well known within the Western Academy, that they're bringing forth issues. Their level of now knowledge is leaps and bounds above what it used to be, 100 years ago. What is happening in the last few years is not me anymore. It's the Western academics. These problems are now becoming mainstream. And by and large, our ulama in the Eastern world are not aware, by and large, of what's going on in the Western side of things. And they're not answering those questions in a manner that it needs to be answered.
Okay, so All right. So basically what they do is, Bismillah, is they settle, starting to get that time, alhamdulillah, is they settle for, okay, we believe in it. Although, you know, them hadiths have difficult stories for them in preservation, right? The thing about it is, we have the whole of the book. So why did they not just believe what Allah said inside his book? Because people wanted to have authority over other people. You see, that's one of the reasons why many of those ahadith was written, because many words that the Quran defines is different in the hadith. For example, al-ulama inside the Quran means a person who has yaksha, means a person who has fear and hope of Allah, and he reflects on the nature of the heavens and earth, and they believe in Allah through that. They become aware and believe in Allah through that, and they have fear and hope. So they are those who know Allah. So therefore they're called al-ulama. You go outside into the hadith books and the fiqh books, eventually al-ulama becomes people that, you know the rules of jurisprudence of the hadiths, Quran, and different things. Okay? And that's not the definition of al-ulama inside the Quran. So I mean, for everything the Quran has said, for the main part, they sought a different way of understanding. So the same thing is with when Allah says, there are scribes, and this Quran is in purified pages. Okay, a suhuf. Suhuf. So, and it's written by, it's by the scribes, right? It's in the hands of scribes, excuse me. Right? So that lets you know it was protected, it was in sheets way before the Prophet died, because that revelation is talking to who? The Prophet and us. You can't have a revelation without the Prophet being alive. See? So, right when that revelation is coming, it's in sheets. We saw where it was in sheets. So what are they talking about? The preservation story where it was on bones and rocks and whatever else that they had to compile it together. It's bullcrap. So the question is, who do we believe? Our Lord, how he literally says it in the book, or do we believe the other stories that people fabricated that got them caught up into confusion? And we know one thing, that like the ayat we read, had it been from any other than Allah, you would have found had it been from any other than Allah, you would have found what? Contradictions in it, inconsistencies in it. We find inconsistencies in these stories of hadiths, talking about the compilation of Quran. So you know it's not from Allah. You see? Matter of fact, that ayat is there. Hold on, let me see. And then I'm going to have to close out. Okay, where is that? Where is that? I had it been for me. Inshallah, subhanallah. Where was it at? In the hands of scribes, reflecting you guys. Okay, hold on for a second. Alright. I must have not took the ayat, but I thought I had the ayat. So one more time, I guess we'll say in the hands of scribes, right? So remember this before I close out. It was in the time of the Prophet, in the hands of scribes, noble, dutiful. And then the man is destroyed, or destroyed is the man. Destroyed is the man. How ungrateful is he from what thing he was created? He was created from a drop of sperm. Okay, so we go before that, and what does it say? What does it say about the Quran? It says, sheets. It's called the remembrance, right? A reminder. Okay, indeed it is a reminder, so whosoever wills may remember it. Sheets. Honored, exalted, purified. In the hands of scribes, noble, who are noble and dutiful. Then it goes on saying, how destroyed is man, how ungrateful is he, from what thing was he created? From a sperm drop. He created him. then he proportioned him, then the way he made easy for him, then he causes him to die and provides a grave for him. Okay? So the Quran was clearly preserved. The Quran was clearly preserved. In the time of Muhammad, this ayah is in the time of Muhammad, that there are scribes who are dutiful and purified pages in their hands. They read it, they recite it too, right? So, but the key word is sheets. It's in sheets. It's not on bones. It's not on sticks. It's not on leaves. Sheets. But you go to these stories in the hadith and they'll tell you it was on rocks, it was on sticks, it was on bones. They had to get a bone from under Aisha's bed, okay, collect and compile it together, and that's how we got it. So you can believe that version, or you can believe how Allah says it, right? So in the time of Muhammad, according to the Quran, it was already in sheets. And we have several ayahs cited